Good morning, everyone. So funny, I had the thank you for watching screen up at the very beginning rather than the starting soon screen. And I love how this camera decides to, like, if I look away, it'll focus on something else. It has a very short attention span. It's funny. Okay. Let's get into it today. No TLDW today. We're not going to talk about anything specific today. Just going to focus on painting and talking about what I'm going to be doing on this painting today because I'm having some issues with it. I felt that it wasn't really doing much yesterday. What does that mean? You know, subjective language. I'm always trying to bring in some objective language. So I know that yesterday I didn't have great sleep, so my focus was kind of divided, especially between the stream and the wonderful people that show up on the stream and ask questions. It's something I always have to kind of balance. So that's there. But I could still make good paintings. Like I really like this painting from my stream. I could still come out with good paintings. I think that's getting dry pretty quickly. Yeah, it's pretty much dry. I could still come out with good paintings while talking to people and streaming. I know that I can do that. But then there's some days when, you know, my PM routine, my nightly routine was off. And that was definitely day before yesterday. And so my morning and the rest of my day, my brain is just not 100%. So understanding that was really good. I've been doing that for years. So yeah, getting a deeper understanding of myself. So what I want to do today is bring this back to the drawing aspect of this. And whenever we're painting, we're always drawing. So it's, you know, we're using a big thick brush or a thicker brush than, you know, the line of a pencil, right? We got this brush. So we're making bigger marks, right? But it's still drawing. We still have to make sure that we put those brush strokes in the correct place. And even when we're using the edge of a brush and making lines, it's a little bit closer to our normal idea of thinking about what drawing is. But I love utilizing drawing as like a practical way, a definite way to get a deeper understanding of the complex forms that we're dealing with. Like, you know, the contour of this hand, the contour of each finger, and then moving through those contours in like linear drawing, I'm talking about linear drawing now, to figure out the specifics of each form. And I believe that's what I need right now, because what it feels like, what this paint feels like here, is someone that is putting brushstrokes down that doesn't understand how each finger, how thick it is, the placement of it, how it turns into space, where the shadow side is, where the light side, where the halftones are, these kind of things. So that's what it feels like. These kind of feelings, I think, are super important because if we can move through the subjectivity of our feelings, like, oh, it feels off, or it feels this, or it feels like that, we can recognize those and see how important they are. We can move through that into objective language, like that angle needs to be a little bit more at this degree, or the length of that line needs to be a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, or the thickness of that finger needs to be a little bit different. The value of that shadow needs to be a little bit darker. Very objective language. And we move through feeling to get to there. So I have a very practical method of moving through this to really recover the drawing process. And it's a little bit cheating, we'll say. Cheating, okay? Because that word comes up a lot of times when I start showing Photoshop. And I'm excited. I'm excited for the future because I ordered a tablet a digital, like a drawing tablet from XP Pen, little cheap one, inexpensive. I can't believe they're so inexpensive. It's like the size of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. It's only $45. I'm like, wow, okay. And it'll give me a better way to move through, this Photoshop thing here and understand line in a little bit more natural way of doing things rather than with my mouse. So I have, this is the picture of the painting. I can go 100% on it so you can kind of see it up close and personal. The hand here. And it does look a little bit, this knife here looks pretty good. Not too bad, right? Pretty good. I'm happy with that. I like all the sharpness within that. But the hand is kind of, it doesn't feel resolved. It feels unresolved. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you, and I've done this before on stream, but I love repeating stuff because people come into these streams, to these videos a little bit differently. I'm going to show you how to utilize Photoshop and to take an image of that you've taken, like that you've, on my cell phone. This was on my cell phone, to correct that image and to pull it into, here's the reference that I'm working with. To pull it into our reference and do a direct comparison between the two and get objective ideas of where the drawing is incorrect and where it's not. I love doing this. I love, like I was saying, moving through the subjective into the objective. Now, every now and then, I'm going to kind of pop back over to OBS to see if there's any commentary. So if you see that, that's what I'm doing. Okay. We're going to move through it slowly. That way anybody can follow. If you have Photoshop, I purchase Photoshop and Lightroom with the Adobe CC license thing. It's, I think, about $20 a month right now for me. It'd be cool if I was in school. I could probably get a very inexpensive copy of it. I think they do discounts for that. And I could try and do this on other free programs like Krita or GIMP and a few others out there, but there's one specific thing that I don't see on any other programs, and that's this. So when I'm in Photoshop on the image that I took from that I've imported from my cell phone in here, I'll hold Control, hit Shift and A, and this is going to bring up the camera raw dialog. You can do this in Lightroom as well, but it's nice to just be able to pull this same thing up into Photoshop. And so there's this little icon over here on the right, and I wish, I'm not zooming into anything, right? And everything in Photoshop is so tiny. When I turned 50 or 49 and I needed glasses, I'm like, oh my gosh, why do you got to make every single icon so tiny? So there's this little icon over here. I'm not sure what it's called. It's geometry. That's what it's called. Okay. And we're going to geometry, and then there's this upright thing here. I'm going to go all the way over to the guided guides. I don't know. Now, what this is going to allow us to do is I can look at the edge of my paper and I can click and hold down, and I get this line here. And I'm just going to draw these lines on the edge of my canvas or my paper, whatever I'm working on. And what we're doing here is we're telling this program to recognize these as the edges of an object that need to be transformed, like the digital photo needs to be transformed so that these edges and these corners are adjusted to 90 degrees. And every time I let go at the end here, you'll see it kind of snap into place. And here's the last one. I'll go around all four edges and it straightens up the whole thing. And then we'll hit OK at the bottom. Okay. And we're straightened up. And I wonder if I can go back and forth. Here. So unstraight, more straight, unstraight, more straight. So this will fix any kind of issues with the image, like perspective. Like if one end of your image is, smaller than the other end, it has this kind of perspective. It'll fix some of the effect of a lens, especially on cell phones, because you're dealing with a like a macro type lens, and it's going to like bubble out a lot of things. So it'll try and fix as much as we can. The other thing we want to do, I need to know the exact ratio size of what I'm working on. And this is 9 by, oh my gosh, what is it? No, it's 8 by 12 is what I'm working with. 8 by 12. Strange size, I know. And what I'm going to do is crop this in. And I'm going to make sure that after we corrected the angles on this image, that we didn't lose the accurate size of this image, which we did. It got a little bit shorter. Sometimes when this happens, it shortens things up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is crop this down. You can see that we have this little space at the bottom on this image. So I'm going to do Control T so I can transform and then stretch this out a little bit. And what we're trying to do, the main reason for this, I got to this point on this image, is we want it to be exactly square on all 4 sides, 90 degrees on all 4 sides, and the same ratio in size as the reference we're working with. That way, when we overlay it, it matches up accurately. Okay. Let's see if... Nope, no comments on stream yet. That's okay. It's Sunday at 10:30, so it's okay. And then I'm going to Control A to copy this entire image that we corrected. And then I'm going to paste it directly over my reference. And you could see right away that that image is much larger. So it's DPI, it's PPI, whatever you want to call it. You know, pixels per inch is a lot greater than what we pasted over it. That's no problem. It's a good problem to have. So Control T again on this one, and I'm just going to compress it down, transform that image so it's a bit smaller, and then I'm going to make sure I'm using my arrow keys to kind of nudge it to the edge of the picture plane here. Line up this picture as close as I can, transforming it so it's like right to the edge, pretty close. Like right there. And Control 0. And now watch this. Now if I'm turning I'm turning the painting layer off and on. And even with this, we can see like the big differences between the drawing that I've made and the image itself, right? Like the hands down here on my painting are a lot higher. Now we could do this even more exactly. So if I create a new layer, so I'm going to keep the painting layer off, right? And if I bring up my brush and I make it very hard, a super hard brush and a very small brush, not that, a little bit smaller. And I want this kind of blue color, even smaller, very small. Just want to make lines like that. And I can't wait to be able to use this with like the little tablet that I ordered. But what I'm going to do is just kind of trace around this hand a bit. And what you can also do, which I like to do a bit more to kind of simplify this process, if I put like a dot down, if I click to dot, hold shift and go to the end, I can do a straight line. That way I'm simplifying these edges down because I don't want to be so connected to utilizing this to a point where it helps me out so much that it's like I can't get away from Photoshop to help me with drawing. I just want a general placement with something, right? General placements. So we can get that whole area of the hand, maybe this line here for the thumb. Simple lines for this whole forearm. Oof, that's probably a bit too simple. And this shadow here, I like this shadow on the thumb. And I don't really care too much about how accurate that is on the knife. It's more about these hands that I want to work with right now. So not being too accurate at this. I don't care about being too accurate. It's okay. We want to get, like, we're way outside the ballpark. I mean, we saw, like, if I turn this back on, oof, way outside the ballpark, right? Way off. But that's okay. I want to get a little bit closer, but I don't need to utilize this method to be just tremendously exact, right? We can take this to like the nth degree where we utilize this to tell us everything is off about the drawing. And you can go really deep into this to get a very objective look on how off our drawing is. Wow. Yeah, that is pretty far off. Pretty far off. Let me see how it compares to just a very general idea of this hand here. I'm not even going to deal with the fingers, just going to make this kind of mitten idea, like this hand has a sock over the whole thing, just for general placement. And I want to see how that relates to the drawing on that hand for mine. Yeah. Bit far off there. What about the shoulder of this figure and a general placement of this hand? Now it's good to say that, is this necessary? No, it's really not. Because a lot of times we'll have drawing that is so far, like it could be really far off from our reference, and yet it still looks like a really good painting. You know, accurate drawing doesn't always equate to a really good painting. Inaccurate drawing doesn't always equate to a bad painting. So we can move through this, and I could put these hands in the right place, you know, quote unquote, right place. Or I could leave them where they're at and just get them correct within themselves. So just, you know, maybe the fingers are looking a little bit more accurate to the reference, but the placement of the entire fist is a little bit off. And that's fine too. But, you know, it's up to us to determine that. There's a lot of things that are off here that I feel like I want to get better with. Like, for instance, if I zoom in here, let's zoom way in. Like this line. So we have the body here on the painting, but in the reference, it's there. It's very different. This whole arm and hand needs to come down. This fist needs to come down. This, oh man, the entirety of that knife is way off. You can see how it needs to be here and a lot larger, thicker. See, this is wonderfully eye-opening, perfect objective way to understand where your drawing is off and to utilize that to improve. This is why I like doing this. It's really hard to get someone to look at your artwork and go, oh yeah, the drawing of that hand is off in this exact way. But this will allow us to do that. Let me see if we have any commentary. Nope. All good. All good. It's going to be all about me painting today then. I can even look at the live stream on Twitch, because usually I get some kind of spam on Twitch, and that's okay. Okay. So the next step, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go Control Shift Alt W, like basically a bunch of buttons. Control, and then this will allow me to export, and I can export this into my project folder and call it Enough Corrections. Title of this painting is Enough. This person with the knife, I think, maybe has had enough. And also, as I'm moving through this, I'm trying to understand what is enough accuracy for me. So it kind of connects in that way. Now that I have that, like I have my iPad here, which is on the side. You can't really see too much of it. I can turn off my reference so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. So I'll go into Google Drive. Like I also subscribe to Google Drive. So where I save that image that I created, the correction is in a particular folder. It will sync with the cloud and it should come up here soon. There it is right there. And then I'm going to import this into Procreate. I like using Procreate. And I'm going to use this to make some corrections. And I'm excited about, we saw that drawing was pretty far off in a lot of places. And a lot of this paint isn't anywhere near dry. It's still, it's trying to set up, but it's still there. But I'm excited to go over all of that I did. I'm going to leave what's there. And I'm feeling like what I want to do, and I can show you, like I'll zoom over there. You can see like the drawing corrections I need to get to, right? I'm excited to draw over this into those general areas, utilize what's down to find, the lines that I need to correct. Use that to understand the form a bit better. So I'll transfer a lot of these blue lines here and paint probably in a different color. And then I'll go back to the reference. And then I'll use that to come back in and like understand the form of those fingers, the placement, everything. But I want some of what's already there to kind of show through. I believe it's called, I got this from Nicholas Uribe, the imprimatura. It's an Italian term. I think that's what it is, where you show intentionally through your painting the process, where you leave a lot of incorrect like phases of the painting, which I think is really interesting. What I can also do is move my camera. Oof. Yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, let's see. This might be bad. I wanted to move it over so you could see a little bit of that. A little bit of me cheating. But cheating on creating a painting. I love that idea. No, it has to be. You have to go hardcore on everything that you do, Chris. You can't use any of these modern technologies to help you out. And then, my response is, yeah, you can. Sure you can. Why not? There's all kinds of artists that use them. I tend to use them in like a way, like very carefully use them in a way so that I'm not always like, well, I can't do a painting of anything unless I'm moving through that. Right. Hey, Dennis. I'm doing well. Thank you. I got a little bit of a headache this morning, but it's good. I slept well, got a good score on Aura, or my Aura ring got, dude, I like live and die by the Aura app. I gotta tell you. And if you get something like that, which, this is an ad for Aura. I love it because I can match like specific objective numbers from this thing. And 90% of the time it'll tell me like, oh, you got a bad sleep score. And I'm like, well, let's see if my energy and my focus throughout the day is affected by that. And a lot of times it is. Hey, Matthew, I'm here. Probably won't be able to stay the whole time. No worries. Come in and out when you need. And hi, Omar. Welcome, guys. Everybody like jumped in at the same time. Very cool. I did a whole process to get to here. I'm not sure if you guys heard it, but I'm going to be doing a lot of drawing corrections today. And the reason why is because all of this paint that I put down yesterday, it feels like a person that doesn't really understand the form of these hands. And so I wanted to correct the drawing, get the drawing a little bit closer to where it needs to be. And it's pretty far off, and that's okay. It was intentional at the beginning, but I want to jump back into that accuracy, right? Breathe in, breathe out, accuracy and expressiveness. And then I'm going to move through like the simplistic kind of location. You know, this is not every single finger. It's just a simple idea of where the location of these arms and hands need to change and that knife. And then move through that to figure out that form a bit more. But I'm also going to leave everything that I put down there already and deal with it. I may have to sacrifice a lot of this, paper that's there where I like to scrape through and see that transparency on the paper. But it's okay. It's okay. I don't want something that intense. I'm going to dip into, and this is a perfect time for M. Graham paint. Remember I complain about M. Graham, about being too fluid? But it's great for this instance because I don't need any medium to make very fluid strokes. I just get some M. Graham paint. It does it. Yeah, put yet at the end of that, Dennis. I cannot draw hands yet. Can I draw hands well? No. I mean, sort of. Hands and faces, dude, so hard. Constant struggle. You get better the more you struggle. You'll get there. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it. Just take, I think if I gave anybody, this is like a reddish color. I want green to grade out. If I gave any kind of advice on drawing hands, move into hands like you would faces. Whenever we're drawing a portrait of like someone we love or some random person, we're like, okay, we have to clinch up. We know that drawing is going to be difficult here. We know that it needs to be very accurate, right? And in hands, we kind of let go of that a little bit. At least I do. Maybe you don't. Lighten it up even more. I need to be able to see this, so maybe I will go with a crazy color. Yeah, let's go with a crazy color. Let's just have fun. You can for sure. Some days, there's sometimes when I do a hand, like this hand. On this painting, I'm so happy with this painting. These hands that I hit, I feel like this one I struggled with. These two, like it just flowed, man. It worked. I was like, yes, I feel good about that. This hand, struggle bus. I'm on the struggle bus through Struggle Town. Yeah, 100%. And it just happens. One day you'll be fine. The other day, it's harder. It's just harder. Do purple. Yeah, that looks good. I like that. I'm just going to have some fun with this today. It just, I would like to... Getting better at anything, there's this simple way that you can tell people. All you have to do is just do it more, right? But that's unhelpful. It's so unhelpful. And that is always going to be part of it. Put it in the work to get better at whatever you're doing. That's always part of it. But when people say that, it's like, okay, I appreciate that. But that's kind of I'm avoiding the word obvious. It's a truth that I think all of us understand right away. Putting in the time and effort, a lot of failure, a lot of feedback on what you've done wrong, to look at the problems that you've had and get some objective feedback on, this is why it's off. This is why I have problems with hands. I can start seeing a pattern for why a lot of the hands that I do are inaccurate and what that means to me, right? Like, how close do I need to get hands on? Yeah, it's easy to fumble with drawing skills if you're not consistent. Yes, consistency is very important. And I love that word so much, consistency, because I think it is the most important word for anything we want to get better at. And it doesn't assume a certain amount of time and a certain amount of effort. Like, we decide our own consistency. A really wonderful book. I'm going to grab it real quick and show you. I could go and grab a book. Actually, I don't think I have any. I used to own all of Bridgman's books, little small books. There was one book where he does like 100 hands. Now I could grab a book all about drawing hands, but I think something like this is more important than like the specifics of getting better on drawing hands. Mastery by George Leonard. Really fantastic. There's another mastery book out there by a different author, but I like this one a lot. Get the audiobook, listen to it, and I want to I think he has some diagrams in here. Probably one of the most important diagram you want. Yeah. Here you go. The mastery curve. It's not really a curve. You see this right here where it's like, these are all little plateaus. So we have this like jump in skill, and then we got a plateau, and jump in skill and plateau, jump in skill, plateau, right? That's how really getting better at anything runs. We have these moments, and like if we're just starting out, it's just like losing weight, right? When we exercise a lot, maybe we're like, at one point in my life, I was like 240 pounds. I was very overweight. And then as soon as I, found a gym that I loved, and I was like having so much fun and getting in there, I saw huge, drops in my weight. So really big progress, right? It was kind of like, I'm here, and then it was like, bam, this huge progress. But then eventually you hit a plateau, right? And then you have a little spike, and then a plateau, little spike, plateau. And the further you get into mastery, the closer you get to this, like, it's like an asymptote, which is a mathematical term where you have let's say you have a straight line, and you have this curving line, and it gets close to that straight line, but never touches that line in infinity. Like it infinitely goes, but never actually touches that line, just as close as possible. So it's like an asymptote, right? Where we have infinite possibilities for getting better and better and better, and getting closer and closer and closer, but those plateaus will get longer and longer and longer, right? And we'll have a spike of like improvement, but we have to live in that plateau for a long period of time. And sometimes a very short period of time. It just depends. And what time frame that is really dependent on who we are and our consistency. It's all about consistency. So I would definitely highly, highly, highly recommend reading Mastery by George Leonard. It's one of those personal development books that I keep because it's so important to me, really helpful for giving like an objective way at looking at getting better at anything. He references, I think, judo or taekwondo or something like that. One of those two. Yeah. And I think, if you just said consistency, it would probably be 90% of that book, honestly. There's a lot of good parts in the book that's very helpful too. There's another book that I think my partner has. I keep trying to fix that language, but called Peak by Anders Ericsson, which is really, really good. It's a dense book. It's a very dense book, and it's all about peak performance and the science behind that. Malcolm Gladwell quoted this book by Anders Ericsson about the 10,000 hour thing, right? You need to get better at anything or master anything, 10,000 hours, which is, like I said before, when you apply a specific number to anything, like, oh, well, you need to just do it for 10,000 hours. There's going to be a million people that say, well, that's not going to work for me. So, but there is a lot of scientific kind of look into what does it take to be a master at anything. And some of those numbers came up because they're scientists, right? They have to put numbers to things. But what it equated out to is just, a lot of effort over, a certain period of time. Consistency. So when I tell people like, oh, just do it a lot, number one, that's not helpful. It's definitely like, oh yeah, well, I understand that. I don't understand I need to work at it. But we have to figure out what consistency looks like for us and how to move through it, how to stay motivated, tools to get more objective responses, how to figure out our feedback loop and get feedback on what we're doing, maybe have mentorships, that kind of thing with people. All of that. I'll definitely check that out. Great. Matthew says, it's okay. She is your wife. Partner doesn't indicate whether you are married or not. Well, the pronouns affect that. So they have pronouns of they, them. So partner more than wife, so dealing with that a lot. We're in a wonderful community of really fantastic friends that we love that have non-binary pronouns. And so I'm really thinking about my language a lot within that and really meeting people where they are, which I enjoy. I enjoy that aspect of life where I feel like I'm respecting individuals a bit more, regardless of what many others think about it. I won't get too deep into that. That's another very deep conversation. But I always like meeting people where they are and coming into that with as much respect as I can. My analogy for it is this. When we're with our friends, with people that are close to us, we can curse a lot, and it's okay. It's fine. We can do that. We can choose to do that. But when we go into like an official boardroom meeting with our boss, we're not going to bring those words out. We're going to change up how we speak, and we're going to be a bit more professional. And I think everybody can kind of understand that. They're like, yeah, of course I can't like throw out F-bombs, when I'm talking in a boardroom meeting or giving a speech or something like that. Like that, no, that's not gonna fly. So I kind of equate it to that. Like, oh, okay, well, in this scenario, I need to change up my language a little bit. No different than if I was in Mexico. I would try as hard as I can to communicate to the locals in their language, which I don't know Spanish too well. I'm very dangerous with it. We've been to Mexico a couple times since we moved to Colorado, and so far, everybody that I met when I'm, fumbling through Spanish, they've been very accommodating. Kind of nice that they're like, oh, okay, this is a person that wants to try and help. I don't want to do that in France, though. I hear, the French, don't butcher their language. It's like we took French. We were doing Duolingo for a while, trying to learn French. It's such a beautiful language. Such a beautiful language. Gosh, I love French. But, the one thing I learned about the French language is they adjust the language to make things sound better. Like that's the intentionality of it. A lot of it, they're like, yeah, the reason why this is done, these certain practices is done in the French language because we feel it sounds better. Like, oh, okay, cool. And it does sound better. Like it has no rhyme or reason other than the beauty of it. Like, yes, that's cool. So I think when you run into, a society or that's, is so deep into how good the language sounds. If someone that comes in and they're starting to butcher their language, they're like, no, just speak English. Stop it. You're hurting my ears, Chris. You're hurting my ears. But I'll try anyways. Okay. So, like I said at the beginning of this, I just did, these lines are very simple. It's not this perfect outline, just all about basic placement. And I'm using like the paint that's already down, like the markings that are already down to match with the lines that I put down to get this drawing a little bit closer. It's an very objective way of seeing where it's off and bringing it back in place. And the reason why I do it simply is because, yes, I do not want to be so tied to this method that I can't draw anything well. Like it can become a very big crutch. And I did feel when I was drawing this that the hand was getting a little bit too large and it was a bit too far up, even when I was measuring with my brush. But I ignored it because I was like, you know what? I don't want to focus too much on drawing right now. I just want to be expressive. But then when I get into, points where I want to find that form and make it look accurate, that balance was too far off. And so now I'm back to the accuracy. And that's okay. I mean, moving through a painting how you see fit, like you can have an idea at the very beginning and then go, yeah, that's not working, and then pivot. This isn't like political stuff where you have to have the same opinion for your entire life. You can change. You can learn and then move through it and go, yeah, I don't like doing that anymore. I want to change it up. I think the painting would be better if I do this. And even on, a larger level, I thought I liked landscapes, but I really want to do figures. And then you get into it and you're like, nope, I hate figures. I'm going to go back to landscapes, or vice versa. But just straight lines, just placement. And as you can see, these lines, I mean, they're not very flowy lines. No medium within this paint, just straight out of the tube. It's a little scratchy. And that's because it's kind of like the stuttering thing. I can't get like really flowy lines. If I added some medium to this, which because I have a vertical palette, the only medium that I would probably use would be the non-solvent gel medium by Gamblin, which I like a lot. And even though it's a gel medium, it would still thin this out enough so I could make some flowy lines, but it's okay. Talking about major placement, not super exactness here. Now later on, I may see some of these like jagged lines that I'm putting in and go, ugh, I wish I didn't do that. But right now I'm going to go with it. But I do appreciate your comment, Matthew, about, the language, the difference between partner and wife. Yeah. We are married 25 years. Crazy. Feels like yesterday. Well, no, it doesn't feel like yesterday. I lied. It doesn't quite feel like 25 years. Yeah, 25 years this year. In June specifically. But, we got married at the end of June. And then we quickly found out that any vacation we would take on our anniversary was a really big pain, because June 30th is our normal anniversary. But any time at vacation. Oh, thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it. Congratulations on 25 years. Yeah. It's not easy. She would say. Anytime we would go on vacation, it'd be like everybody would be vacationing for July 4th. It'd always be hot. We would rather it be cold. in most instances. We're those weird people, and I just put my finger in my paint. Oh, I hate that. I do not like getting paint on me. I'm weird that way. So we changed our anniversary to Earth Day, which is, and I always forget this, like it's Earth Day is like April 23rd, or maybe it's May 23rd. I always mix that up. So we like doing anniversary stuff on that day because kids are still in school. We don't, there's not a lot of people vacationing. It's a little bit cooler. It's also celebrating, the earth and all kinds of, very environmental practices, which is right up our alley. So it fits with us really nicely. To the chagrin of my in-laws, but that's okay. Still love them too. Now I'm all the way up here in the shoulder. It's okay. It's okay. Just quickly throw that in. The few lines that I got in, they were pretty darn close, was up here. Happy about that. I'm happy about that. The upper arm here is pretty darn close. I don't need to make much changes with that. So happy with that. Good job, Chris. Seems like the most issues were all over here. The hand is pretty close. That finger is way off. This hand, though, and you can see I'm just doing a basic, like just super basic placement with this one. Just a mitten there. The line that connects the forefinger to the thumb goes right to there. Just a really quick brush stroke. Not really much of a brush stroke, just jagged thing that I threw down. This kind of shows the importance of getting like the simpler, bigger idea within the beginning of the painting. If I spent a little bit more time, focusing on the bigger ideas of these shapes and getting, the placements down a little bit better, this painting probably could have, gone a bit faster. And I've talked about that before, not only, focusing on the bigness of everything and then using that to get like smaller shapes, but also this idea of accuracy is a lot faster than moving your arm faster, right? Trying to put it down really fast. A lot of times we'll make so many more mistakes if we're just going, let's go quick, let's just get it done. When we're focusing on getting the painting done, and it kind of overwrites our ability to get the lines that we're putting down in a better placement. And then it ends up being a lot of correction. The painting takes longer. Okay. That's all the lines. That's all the fixing that I'm going to do right now. I could go back to it later, but we'll see. So what I'm going to do now is bring that reference back up. Here we are. And I'll have it repeated down here on my iPad, which is kind of confusing for the stream. I'll make it bigger. Ah, that's much nicer. Still got double hands, but I think we can figure that out. It's okay. Yeah, not too bad. Okay. My parents have been married for over 50 years. Wow. Yeah. We're like halfway to that. Just talked to someone that had like 60 years of marriage. I'm like, holy crap. It's crazy. I haven't been alive that long. Okay. Let's get some white out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to focusing on this hand here, the fist grabbing the knife. I'm zooming in pretty far on my reference, and I'm going to move through this generalized drawing that I put down to refine that form. and to utilize that drawing to understand the form of each finger, the entirety of the fist, and how it moves through space. And slow down a little bit. I'm going to slow down. Not like I'm going that fast anyways. I always worry about that. Like, I'm sure a lot of people are going, oh, taking 6 days on a painting. Come on, Chris. I want to see the end of it right now. Let's fast forward. And then part of me is like, yeah, art, well done paintings take a long time sometimes. Sometimes they could be tossed out pretty quickly with what felt like no time or no effort. And then other times, you're sitting there for a month just trying to figure things out. And we're going to start with gray. The other thing I want to do is, looking at the previous painting and looking at some of these values here. Like this is on, like the very dark of that hilt is on. Of course, I'm going to go over it because it's down here now. But I like how dark that is, but really bringing the value down on those shadows as well. Hey, Antonio. Oh, it's getting beautiful. Thank you, Antonio. Hey, yeah, hands are tough. It's the universal thing with every artist. Hands are hard. They are so hard, man. We were just talking about that, like how much of a struggle they can be. And just consistently, not running away from them and saying, okay, there's a hand here. Let's try it. Let's try and figure it out. Let's go for it. I'm not going to hide from it. And I'm going to start with this finger under the thumb. And I'm going to go a little bit darker. I think that might be a bit too dark. And I'm also pushing the color a little bit. If I see blue, right, like a shadow that feels a little bit blue to me, I'm going to make it blue. It's going to be a little bit more intense than what I see in the image. I really enjoy doing that with the previous painting. But I'm going to move through this in a form way. Like this is turning the finger down to, moving very slowly today, guys. Moving slowly, intentionally thinking about what I'm doing. And it's boring to watch. I'm not going to lie to you. It's almost like watching painting dry. The only way that I feel like I can make it somewhat interesting is to talk about what I'm doing as I go through it, like each of these moments. So thinking about that line that happens between two fingers, so important. Do you also paint watercolors? I love your art and would love to see you paint in water. Oh my God. I am so scared of watercolor. I think I could probably do a little bit better in watercolor now. It's been never since I painted watercolor. Maybe so long ago that I've forgotten everything about it. I mean, the closest I've gotten is gouache, opaque watercolor, basically. But yeah, I suck at it. But I think I might be better because I've been dealing with a lot of transparency in this oil painting and my latest oil painting. So it gets a little bit closer to watercolor when you're like really trying to keep that paper to show through, I think. But it would be like so much guessing for me. Will I ever try watercolor? Most likely not. Not gonna lie to you, Antonio. The chances of me jumping into watercolor is very, very low. And why? Why is that? Like, I know of a lot of artists like Nick Alm, ALM. This guy is crazy. Like, he'll do just the most beautiful oil paintings. And then the next day he's like, oh, watercolor. And then do the most beautiful watercolors. Like Anders Zorn is the same way. John Singer Sargent. I mean, John Singer Sargent, I think, was a better watercolor painter than oil painter. I used to have a book on all of his watercolors, or it was crazy good. But that ability to go from oil to watercolor and like change your brain from one to the next, I think is crazy difficult. There's a lifetime of learning just in oil alone, and then add another medium on top of that. Okay, let's, 2 lifetimes. There's a lifetime of learning in watercolor. So it's scary for me. Not gonna lie. Like, I'm really utilizing the generalization of this thumb to tell me where everything is here. There's a lot of occlusion shadow that happens within hands and fingers. Occlusion shadows is where 2 objects get really close to each other. There will be a darker shadow right where they meet. That prevents a lot of reflected light to get into that shadow area. So you'll see those occlusion shadows. They just look like lines, kind of outlines with the thumb or the finger. You'll make lines in between fingers, and that's kind of gives you the idea of structure in a lot of ways. Where one finger ends and the other one begins. But those lines are a little bit, they're hard because they're more shape than line in a lot of ways. Like, I remember one teacher that I had was telling me there are no lines in life. It's just the meeting of 2 shapes that look like a line. But, that could be argued with all the time. Watercolor is tough. How about pastel? Oh, Matthew says, I'm glad you talk a lot. You really do a good job of explaining what you're doing. Thank you. I appreciate it. It helps me, honestly. It helps me a lot. How about pastels? No, I've never done pastels. I remember when I was at Gage Academy, and I didn't take classes there. I just did a lot of life drawing there, life painting. That's in Seattle, Washington. Beautiful school, right in Seattle, Gage. It's, what's her name? Aristides does some books. That's where she teaches. I forget her first name. Wonderful artist. She's a super nice person too. I remember doing a life drawing there, and a person would come in with pastels, not oil pastels, but like dry pastels. Oh, hold on one second. And my partner's not feeling well, so they're coming home from work. So a person was doing like life drawing with pastels, and it was amazing. Like, they had like these kind of flat table things, and they put this box down, and then it had like multiple layers, and they would fold out this like tray of pastels, and this other tray of pastels, then another tray of pastels, then a 10th tray of pastels. And it's like, it was beautiful. It was like they opened up shop, and it was this like, hey, come look at my art shop with a million different pastels. And they did a beautiful figure painting. And I saw that, and I was like, yep, no, not for me. Like, I'm sure you can I would totally simplify pastels, like down to the least amount. But if I know anything about pastels, which is nothing, I think, there's not a lot of blending. So you have to find the color and put the color down, I think. That's my extent of pastel knowledge, right? It could be completely different. But, you know, I don't think there's a Zorn palette in pastels. You know, there's not a mixing of color. Maybe it would be like, hey, I want to do pastels and I want to get the Zorn palette. So you'd have to buy pastels that would have every single one of these colors on your color chart. Which, I don't know, what is that, like 120, 200 pastel chunks, right? Sticks. And then you would have a Zorn palette, which is a limited palette. That's my limit of knowledge on pastels, but kind of fun though. I don't know. The one thing I have seen on pastels, I watched a video on YouTube about the making of pastels, and it's pure pigment. Like if you want the most bright, intense bang for your buck, yeah, pure pigment of pastels. Lots of P's in there. Really testing the plosiveness on this mic. Pure pigment pastels. Kind of interesting. Okay, back down to the grays. I love how fingers here, like really, really look at fingers and hands, and I should probably zoom in. I'm going to zoom in real quick, guys. You won't see my palette, but I'll talk about it. Okay, yeah, that's better. So you can kind of see what colors I'm mixing up. I'll stay right there. Yeah. But I wanted to zoom in because, I mean, the coloration on this monitor is very different than what's actually there. Yeah, pastels, they're super expensive. That's the other thing. Oh my goodness. But y'all. Really look at skin. I love Caucasian skin, mainly because it's what I paint the most. And I bet you if I painted black or brown skin, I would love that as well. I need to find more references with different, you know, ethnicities of skin, and I think it would be fantastic. But I love Caucasian skin because I see greens, I see blues, I see these like crazy yellows within there, and I love to push that. I love to take it further and really play with like all of those neutralizations of what we see as quote unquote skin tone. And when you really look at a hand, when you really look at like elbow, or, you know, the translucency of a forearm, when you see the veins kind of showing through things, it adjusts the color into like blues and greens. And it really annoys me when, well, I don't know why it annoys me, but yeah, it does annoy me. I'm gonna say this. It annoys me when I see artists that just mix up this general skin tone, right? Or it's like, and it goes from like this kind of orangey reddish brown to like a lighter orangey reddish brown to like maybe a darker orangey reddish brown. And then they just move through the entirety of the painting within like those subtle changes in value of the same orangey reddish brown. Right. And it's like, no, you're not looking. You're just, well, I mean, you're looking at values. But there's so much more into those skin tones. Like here, within the shadow side of these fingers, it's green. That's green. Now, if I did a color picker on this in Photoshop, I know it's going to be like this just grayish color. It's going to go closer to a gray rather than any kind of green or whatever. But I like this moment where my eyes look at it just instantly and says green in my head, and I go with that. But opening our eyes, really looking at what we're seeing, and not just doing this kind of rote, unthinking idea of like, well, I'm painting a Caucasian person, so I need to get out my skin tone tube and then paint their skin tones, which is going to be this kind of pale pink kind of thing. No, you're not looking. You're really not looking. Like, look at the difference between a nose and a cheek. The nose is going to have all kinds of red within it. You know, start painting a lot of older men. You know, they don't put on makeup. They're not going to have a bunch of makeup on, and they're going to have age within the face. And the colors go from yellow to blue to bright red to greens to the pale pink, you know, all of that. Antonio says, I just went to check Nick Alm's work. Thanks for it, for the reference. I didn't know him. What a stunning painting. Oh my God, yeah. Nick Alm, not only does he have like the tremendous skill, but a lot of the paintings are haunting. Like, you get feeling from them. They're like, what are you doing? Like, compositions as good as Hopper, Edward Hopper. I love Hopper. Oh, probably some of the best composed paintings that American painter could ever do. Edward Hopper. So good. Well, that and Andrew Wyeth. Look at Edward Hopper, Andrew Wyeth, and Nick Alm, and you'll see connection in composition to all of them. Love all those artists. Just fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And, you know, and how Nick Alm in so many paintings moves between accuracy and expression. Like, I don't want to paint like Nick Alm. He gets a little bit too soft and exact in a lot of places. But I love how many paintings go expressive, super expressive in places, and then so tight and beautiful and soft. Like, that balance between accuracy in the drawing and the expressiveness of brushwork in other places, like the abstraction of it, just absolutely beautiful. I'll be looking up to Nick Alm on his pedestal for years and years. Same with Andrew Wyeth. I mean, Andrew Wyeth, so detailed. He painted with a lot of egg tempera and dry brush, which is watercolor, but very dry watercolor. And just super detailed, lots of like little marks, little marks. But how he composed imagery, and a lot of them, you know, not very detailed, very expressive. Andrew Wyeth, oof. I also like Jamie Wyeth, his son. Super good paintings. I loved, like, he was doing this painting of seagulls on raw cardboard. Beautiful freaking painting. Gosh, so good. On raw cardboard. Are you kidding me? Awesome. He's like, I don't need all that expensive stuff. The raw cardboard is fantastic. Okay, I really need to work on... So all I've been doing is just this one finger this whole time. Just really slowing down. Like, all about the meditative quality of just slowing down, engaging my brain so much that my words are halting, and thinking about, okay, there's that line there. There's this shape. I need to angle my brush a certain way. I need to make the stroke at this angle so that I hit the contour edge of that where I want it to, and then drag it into another space. And this value needs to be a little bit darker. It's warm. It's warmer than the cooler side of that finger because we're on the back here. So I think probably the best thing would be some ivory black and cad red. Thinking about the temperature and the value first. The more we get into painting, you know, or at least the more I get into painting on this, the more I remove hue from color and don't think about it that much. And the more I think about temperature more than anything else. Warmer, cooler, you know, closer to blue, and then a cooler color, is it closer to blue or is it closer to green? A warmer color, is it closer to yellow or closer to red? Just really simplifying and just making sure the value is where you want it first. And then in certain places, like there's this part within these knuckles where right in the, you know, we have these valleys between our knuckles. And this one, the valley gets pretty dark. And it almost blends in with the background, the back there. So let's go ahead and take it further. Ooh, and I think I'm messing up the location of that. I'm getting my fingers mixed up. That's what I'm doing. So this is that line, goes down in here. But when those values get close, just go ahead and get rid of it. Just make a lost edge. And these little moments, when we look at painting, when we look at our reference, okay, and we see something that is so close, just go ahead and bring them together. Like those edges, the values are so close. Just go ahead and bring them together. Just lose that edge completely. These are like the moments where we start to like find ways to easily depart from our reference enough to where we interject a bit of ourself, like we can decide whether or not to lose that edge or keep that edge, to make it sharper, to make it harder, in these little ways. And it's kind of like the small moments where we decide I'm going to focus more on a bit more of me in this painting, and open it up to our viewer to have their own interpretation, where it's like, where we stop thinking about describing everything perfectly and we begin to trust the person viewing the painting to come to a conclusion that's all their own. You know, we talk a lot about, yeah, you know, I want to paint from these photos, but I don't want to have to copy all the time. And, you know, we move through that. Like we start out copying because we want to learn how to paint what we see. But then we get so deep into that it becomes harder to try and move away from it. We don't know how to move away from it. And in these small moments, we can start to go, oh, okay, let me make that value a little bit darker, make this one a little bit lighter. Let me compress this value range just a little bit. I know I see black within this photo, but I'm not going to take it all the way to black. I'm going to add another color to it to keep it a little bit light. I see that those two values are pretty close together. I'm just going to completely lose that edge. I'm just going to push it a little bit. And the more we do that, the more we kind of move through these small changes, the more we begin to understand a little bit more about how we like to move through things and change up the image. And then eventually we do it more and more and more and more and more. And it's like, we can't tell the difference, or it's like the reference is so different from what we painted. Like it is the reference, but it's more our creative self than the reference. And I feel like that's at least what I would like to get to. I just went to check Nick Alm's work, just like yours. Oh, no. Thank you. I really appreciate that. You know, when I get a compliment, I have to remember just to say thank you. But in my head, I'm going, oh, hell no. Nowhere near Nick Alm. Maybe one day. I'll keep working on it, but oof, he's so good. So good. Sometimes one part of the hand is a little bit blurred and the others are very realistic and detailed. The thing is how to make simplified and realistic hands with simple brushstrokes. You're doing great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Like how to simplify it. How to make it simple. And I think there's no one answer to that. You can't, it's not like Bob Ross. I mean, love Bob Ross, but he's a very methodological painter. It's all about method for Bob Ross, right? Amazing painter. Gosh, I love Bob Ross. He's fantastic. But when we get into these things, we're like, okay, how do I simplify? And actually, Bob Ross does that. He has these methods for simplifying things that were so easy to understand that people could come into his videos and go, oh, okay, here's the best way to guarantee a good painting at the end. I just, move through these methods. Of course, he wasn't working from references. It was more from, imagination in a lot of ways. Not a lot of ways, but yeah, it was all from imagination. But how you do a evergreen tree? He had a method for that. How you do this? A method for that. How do you do that? Water, whatever it is, had a method for it. And so we do develop these kind of methods for, okay, I see this edge, I see this shadow, I see this light, I see that line. And we develop our own language through it. So it is very similar, but it's not so objectively laid out. Like objectively, Bob Ross would move through tree, like evergreen tree in general, and have a method for doing every evergreen tree, okay? Or every glassy waterway, right? Got to get the big brush, got to put it down, and then, go side to side on it to soften it out, and it looked like flowing water. And you're like, oh yeah, that's how you do it. But when we look at all the different things that we're doing, and we're referencing an image, there's no one similar finger. I can't go through this and have a particular method for every single finger I do, or every single hand specifically. But I can have these kind of generalized tools, these methods to use these generalized tools where I say, okay, I see a straight or a curved line, all these curved lines within this fist, within the thumb of that fist, right? Like this line here going down. I'm going to straighten those out. I'm going to make it, instead of like 10 different transitions of those lines, it's going to be 3. And that's how I'm going to simplify. And then this is more in a generalistic way where you're thinking about just line in general. That could work with a thumb, the side of a barn, the side of a hip, a head, a nose, whatever, and generalize in that way. But then we'll also run into times where it's like, okay, well, it's not going to work for this specific subject that I'm working with. For example, a really great example of this, like you can have a general way of, like you're looking at an area of foliage, right? It's all these greens everywhere, and like a tree. And you could go in and do each individual leaf. And that's how I move through this painting. I'm Thomas Cole. I'm going to do like each individual leaf. And it was beautiful. It's fantastic. But I don't want to do it every individual leaf. What I want to do is generalize that into a larger shape. So I'm looking at the bigger shape that the grouping of these leaves make. And I'm going to paint that structure that's made up of a million different parts, right? And that works. And we can see that in a bunch of different ways, like a grouping of grass, of bushes, of trees, foliage in general, maybe a whole set of evergreen trees, types of trees that could work with. But then we run into, like, maybe we're out in the Serengeti and we're painting a zebra or a giraffe. And we look at the stripes on this zebra or the variegation on the side of a giraffe, and we're like, I can't generalize that. I can't make the zebra gray and just generalize all these stripes. Like, no, I have to delineate those stripes. Definitely. That's what a zebra is. So in that scenario, it doesn't work. We got to do the specifics within that. And so I think that's what, kind of like the key of it is having methods that are not so tremendously tied to what we need to do. Like, okay, this is a method that I like, that I want to try here, see if it works. Oh yeah, that works. But here I know it's not going to work. Finding our own language to move through things. It is like you're focusing on a camera, but with paint. Like like you're focusing on a camera, but with paint. Yeah, if you're talking closer to depth of field, where there's one part of the image that's in direct focus, and then like the background has this wonderful blur to it, and it's kind of like bokeh that it's where you have lights that just turn into big blobs of unfocus. Beautiful. We can do that in paint. There is a portrait I did of I think that I got off of Unsplash. The guy has a beard, beautiful brown skin tones. And then the background was this like crazy, like patchwork of shapes. And so I intentionally thought about, okay, I'm really going to push the depth of field on this. And every line that I put in the background, all those shapes, I made sure that there was a lot of softness to everything in the background, really separate the foreground from the background that way. And it was just, understanding how cameras use depth of field and then trying to push that through the painting. And that's a lot of fun. And it's a compositional element too. You want people to focus on X more than Y, make X very sharp, very high detailed, and make Y very soft. I love moving and thinking about, when we define at the very beginning the purpose of the painting, where our focal point's going to be. And that's where all the sharpness goes. That's where all the high contrast goes. That's where all of the most saturation goes in our colors. And it gives us this means to move through the painting and gives us a playbook for adjusting what we're seeing to fit the composition that we want. Love that idea. Because we can translate this feeling, or try to translate this feeling that we want to impart, this narrative, into the fundamentals of painting. Well, we need a darker and a lighter value here, but very soft, medium tones here, it will tell you all that. And this is interesting. Still a bit confusing, but interesting. I feel like I want to get a different brush. I use flat brushes way too often. Let's find a filbert or a round. Here we go. Round brush. Old round brush that I use. Maybe it's a little bit too big. I need more paint as well. when you're painting, there's a tendency, and we all do it. Well, not all of us. Most artists do it. I do it all the time. A lot of artists do it all the time. You'll start mixing up all these colors and you get on your palette like all of this coloration that I have. And they begin to have locations on them of, oh, okay, this is my lighter pink color. This is my darker color, my shadow color. And we stop mixing up those colors anymore. And I get a little bit lazy, right? I have all these colors down, and then those piles of colors get thinner and thinner and thinner, and then all of a sudden we're barely painting with any paint. So a good thing to do every now and then is just scrape off what you've done, make up this kind of grayish whatever tone that's there, put it down somewhere so you can figure out what it actually looks like on the surface, and then begin remixing to bring in some thicker paint. Yeah. It's one of those other places where I feel like we tend to kind of fall asleep a little bit, lose a little bit of focus. I mean, because honestly, there's so many things in painting that we're focusing on, we're thinking about at the same time. It's easy to do. Totally easy to do. Hey, Michael, welcome. Happy Sunday. I'm still basically on this one finger. I'm working so slow today. As I'm working on this, I'm zoomed in on my iPad, which you can't see, which is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, because there's this tendency for getting, there's all this variation in just a simple finger. There's like, it goes from this brighter pink to a yellow, and then into a green and maybe a blue or a gray, and all these little differences. There's a whole world in that. It's like looking at the back of a maple leaf, right? There's a whole tree of leaves and detail and everything just in the back of a maple leaf. It's crazy, right? Like all of that information, and we can get caught up in it. We can get so caught up in it. And sometimes it's good. We choose to get caught up in that. But then other times it's like, wait a minute. Maybe I need to pull back. But right now, I'm caught up in it and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying that slowness. I'm enjoying the little details. I'm trying to push those as much as I can. Like I'm going to make up a crazy kind of light green color here, bluish green, maybe yellowish green. Let's see what that looks like. Because I'm seeing this in places on this finger, and I want to push that. Even more green. Yeah, I like sharp edges. I like sharp strokes. I like delineation. I like light side, dark side, halftone, shadow. I'm falling into that and I'm enjoying it. The structure of it. I really Nicholas Uribe, honestly. I'm a copy of Nicholas Uribe a little bit too much. Need to kind of move away from it. I'll just say Izza. Hello from Michigan. Wonderful. And another person online. What's going on, Home Skillet? Fantastic. Just painting very slowly today. Trying not to make the stream too boring. That's what's happening. As you guys are here just listening to me and watch paint dry. Yeah, that's it. It's hard. It's hard. But I could blather on for forever. Ask questions. That'll help me out. What are you working on? What do you need help with? What are you struggling with? right? Maybe I'll try and help with that. Those two strokes, those two little dark lines I put in just went poof. It just, the turn of that finger happens with those. It's fantastic. I want to show you guys something. Okay. Sidetrack. I want to show you something that blows my mind. Okay. Exactly kind of what we're talking about within here. Oh, Michael, Greece. Gosh, so awesome. Love to be there. I need to bring up, we're going to look at Olga Boznanska. Thank you so much, Nicholas Aribe, for turning me on to Olga Boznanska. Hands, we're going to be looking at hands. Okay, I need to bring up my resources folder, and I'll show you in a second. I know I'm not showing. Give me a moment. Art references. No, that's not it. Art inspiration folder. You guys, if you don't have an art inspiration folder, and if you're not collecting these images, do so. Oh, a lot of times when I don't feel like painting, I'll just go through, look at some of my most favorite artists, and like the motivation just kind of flows in. It's fantastic. There's Nick Alm, but we're going to look at Olga. And let me show my screen. I want to hit some of these comments first. Izza painted some blue sky around some palm tree tops. Ooh, I can picture that in my head. The green and the blue probably looks fantastic. Set it in a plat holder to dry and turned on YouTube. Greece, yes, Greece is classic. Oof, those sculptures. Drawing shadows is my current arch nemesis. It's like you're on a video game, right? And you're like trying to get past this boss. And it's just, maybe it's like Dark Souls or something, and it's just kicking your butt. And you're like, one day I'm going to get past you, and you just keep working it. And then you conquer that boss, the shadows, the drawing of the shadows, and you just feel so good. You just feel so good. Okay. We're going to dive really quickly into the hands of Olga Boznanska. So, Polish painter. Let me close my door. I believe Polish painter from 1800s. And I want to show you this. So here's what we're talking about, like paintings like this. I'll get bigger. Thank you. There's the face of this portrait. But look at these hands. I'm going to go in as far as I can. It's like 214%. So we get some pixelation. But where this blows my mind is, here's the perfect example of paint first and hands second. And they're so beautiful. They're so amazing. And Nicholas was talking about, because he was doing like a still life or something. He was talking about what he thinks Olga does, right? Is, because of course she's not alive any longer. And how she would move through these hands and the way that she painted, where it was, look at this. I mean, if I zoom back, it's like you can see the fingers kind of like come out of this fog when you zoom out. When I zoom close, it's like just paint. But trying to keep this kind of miasma, I'm looking for words here, like the fog of just random brushstrokes everywhere with everything blending into each other. The values are really close. There's not like a tremendous delineation of form. Like there's not a definite within like, okay, this is a vein going over the top of a hand and then the shadow on that, the light side on that, but very, very generalized and very soft brushes, just keeping with that slightness of nothing, of paint, of the fog of paint everywhere. And then choosing in very specific moments to put down a value that's a little bit darker, in just the perfect places. And it brings everything together at once and says, hand. Look at this, like this hand here. So we definitely see this hand here. We see 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers and kind of a thumb. And we see the rings, right? You see those rings. We can understand this a little bit more, but we know, like if I back up, right? This hand where we see the knuckles, we see kind of a thumb, that finger just blends right into some, I don't know, that's probably the sleeve. But when you look at, like, you really get up close on this, and it's not the best images, right? It's not super high detail, but we don't need it. When you get up close on this, there's no difference between this arm and that hand. But this touch here of this line, that touch of that line, and this little darkness here, those 3 marks defined the entirety of that form. It was miasma of nothing but fog and paint, and then 1, 2, 3, hand and arm separation. And here's a very, delineated hand, so much more information, high contrast, we got a bit more, but then look how this tip of this finger, we see the fingernail, which is the hardest thing to do on hands. Like doing fingernails that look right, so hard. Looks wonderful, so simple, and then devolves into paint right here in the finger as it gets, this one, oh my goodness. There's like strokes that go across all these fingers. Just beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. These blow my mind because usually when we look at paint, when we look at paintings, it's a bit closer. Let me just go back to this one. This we can kind of understand. We can look at it. We can go, okay, this stroke's here, that stroke's there. Here's these definite highlights, these smaller strokes for the cuticles of the fingernails, these kind of things. We can kind of understand that. We can pick it apart and we could repeat it. It's like looking at a Van Gogh. We could delineate, we see every delineated stroke that's put down, right? And we can figure it out. We can, like this line here is definitely like a white stroke that goes exactly in that angle, and we can figure it out. But then we look at something like this, and I look at it and I go, I have no idea. That is definitely 100% fingers interlaced with 2 hands. And I see that 1, 2, 3 fingers here, 1, 2, 3 on that side, some pinkies crossed, a little thumb poking up. But I can't tell you how to ever do that. It's like looking for me like at a Bernini sculpture. Like there's no way on the, maybe if I had 2 or 3 lifetimes. Oh, there's a self-portrait of Olga. Look at this thing. What is that? It's beautiful. Like I couldn't tell you how to do that. It just defies logic for me. I love, bad image, but the blending of those 2 together, just gorgeous, gorgeous. Olga Boznanska. Boznanska. A master artist that goes beyond so many artists that I've seen before and her ability, yet hardly anybody knows about her. Crazy. Gorgeous. Look at those eyes. Look at these hands, just her hands. Oof, look at that. Oh my gosh. There's so much there. Anyway, sidetrack on that. Intentional sidetrack. Let me go back to the stream. My old sketchbooks full of ideas. I do like knives. Beautiful. Why doesn't mine look like that? Said Homer Simpson. Perfect. I'm painting a memorial portrait of my late aunt. Oh, that's fantastic. Remembering someone like that. That is awesome. Blessings to your aunt and the spirit she inspired in you. Yeah, fantastic. Great job. Thank you, Izza, for that. What's the name of this artist? Olga Boznanska. Boznanska. Now, the problem with that sidetrack and jumping into Olga is I'm coming back to this piece of crap that some terrible artist is painting. Oh, geez. That's what I feel like. And give me 1 second. I need to blow my nose. Be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Definitely didn't want to do that on the stream. No one wants to see that. But yeah, going from Olga Bolsonaro back to my old painting just don't feel well. Whoa, I got a gift. Holy crap. First one. And someone trying to spam me on Twitch. It's like the only purpose for Twitch is spam, it seems like. Okay, we'll get to it. Thank you, Izza. Izza says, some of my early paintings, especially acrylic, sunk into the gesso and turned more transparent. How interesting. Especially acrylic sunk into the gesso and turned more transparent. Huh. Olga makes us say Chris is one of us. Okay. And thank you so much, Izza, for the gift. Appreciate that. It's the first time I've ever gotten a gift. I see a 400 next to it and a little eagle. I don't know what the gift is, but that's 400 jewels. Oh, that's fantastic. I don't know what jewels are. Do you know, Vincent? This is Vincent Van Cat here. His name is Vinny or Vincent. Are you okay? You just wake up? Yeah, I wish I could show you guys Vinny. His face, he's so cute. He's a big boy. But thank you so much, Izza. Leagues ahead of you? I don't know. A couple weeks, I'm sure you'll catch up with me. Hey, pups. Okay. So yeah, going back to my painting, and I'm trying not to hit my kitty with the mic. Going back to my painting after seeing Olga's hands is inspiring and difficult at the same time. Like, I know we could get to that. I know it's possible. Someone did it. Olga did it. It reminds me of, I forget the English guy's name, young kid at the time, before there was a 4-minute mile, right? When you're running, like they said, no one could run a mile in under 4 minutes. It was impossible. There were people at that time that said, if you ran that fast, your heart would explode. Like things would happen to your body that you would probably die. I kid you not. This is what people said then. But then one guy did it in England, run a 4-minute mile. I have a video of it and everything. You can see it on YouTube. And then after that, all over the world, all these people started running a 4-minute mile. Before then, it was unheard of. Like, no, you can't do it. It's impossible. And then after one person does it, everyone else is like, oh, you can do that. I'm going to do it. Heck yeah, I could do it. I'm pretty close anyways. Let's do this. And now we're at a point where people are running marathons in under 2 hours. Crazy, crazy, crazy. But those trailblazers, right? We look at Olga Bolsonaro, we look at John Singer Sargent, we look at Rembrandt, we look at all these artists and we go, they did it. We could easily look at that and go, oh my God, there's no way on earth I could ever get there. Right? But someone did it. You know, they're not much different than us. We probably have better paints than Olga and Rembrandt. Definitely better surfaces. I know Olga painted on a lot of cardboard at the time. Izza says, I am 76, so painting with thick oils and handmade supports. Nice. Love that. Congratulations on 76. I hope I make it there. That would be fantastic. I hope it make it there and I'm healthy. And I'm still painting. You're way ahead of me, Izza. I'll catch up. But looking at other artists, I can look at this and go, oh, my painting kind of sucks, but go, okay, Olga did it. I'm inspired to be a bit more simple with this. I'm hovering my brush over this as Vinny pokes me in the side saying, hey, Dad, pay attention to me. Hi, look at this guy. How can you not love him? All right, give me a second. I'm sorry, guys. This guy is super important. Yes, you are. So I'm going to hit the be right back button. I'm going to hit the be right back button and see what he wants. You want to give me kisses on stream? Let's show people. Give me kisses. Yeah, it's a good boy. Okay, be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Such a strange stream this morning. Just a baby oil painter, it looks like. Cat says, I want chicken. I want liver. Meow mix, meow mix. Please deliver. Yes. He's got to get a special diet because he's a little bit overweight because Daddy likes to feed him way too much. It's all Daddy's fault. All right, so inspired rather than feeling overwhelmed by Olga. That's what we're going for. Inspired to go a little bit more expressive with some of these strokes, but really thinking about it. Really thinking about it. It's almost like a purposeful expression. Like I know what I want to say, so I'm going to plan out that sentence. I'm going to plan out those words and I'm going to put it down once, like kind of plan it in my head and then throw it down. Yeah. And maybe think about, where does the simplicity lie in all this? And how long can I hold on to that simplicity and paint as simple as possible for as long as possible? Before I put in marks that delineate the difference between these fingers. Like, how can I bring them together like Olga was doing in a simple way? Really kind of push that idea. See, that was not the right hue. I wanted it to be a bit more intense there. Weird paintings from beginners can still be precious handmade treasures. Yes, I agree. Treasure the things that you do. Even if, it's so easy for myself and for us to look at these paintings and go, that's not so good, and point out all the problems. And that's good in a lot of ways because we want to be a little critical of our work. That's how we get better, get feedback on it, improve on the next one. But at the same time, it's telling us a lot about ourselves, about who we are. It's also that kind of mark in time that we can go back to later on and say, oh, wow, I have gotten better. I've got a picture of this painting that I did, forever ago. And maybe better is too simplistic of a terminology. Maybe you're not quote unquote better, but different. Different in a way that you like more, right? Better is so subjective anyways. Like, what does that mean? Oof, that probably wasn't the best stroke. I had an orange tabby with white socks, the most affectionate cat ever. Yeah, orange tabbies are mostly male, I think. Like, they're very seldom do you get a female orange tabby. And I say that because every male cat that we've had has been so affectionate and amazing and wonderful. But we do have LaFay, a gray tabby. They're LaFay and Vinny are brother and sister. And she is super affectionate. Her mom was super affectionate, and she was a tortoiseshell, and they're notorious for being kind of mean. But yeah, love my kitties. We don't have kids, we have kittens. Now, thinking about Olga's paintings, the interesting thing that I was looking at, kind of the brushwork, when we were just looking at her paintings, I didn't see a lot of indication of like flat brushes. I could tell by the brushwork, probably a lot of round or filberts, things, brushes that didn't leave a lot of hard edges anywhere, especially in the hands that she would paint. You could tell there was a lot of dragging of the brush over maybe dried or set paint to get more about texture and more about this idea of a change in value or temperature with softness throughout, and then really holding on to that consistent like unspecificity, lack of specificity for as long as you can on the painting before you say, okay, these are the two places where you have a darker value, slightly darker value that will delineate fingers. It's paint, it's paint, it's paint. It's like nothing. It's a miasma of nothing. It's just this kind of fog of stuff. And then 3 or 4 strokes make it into fingers. Just crazy, crazy amazing. Barn cat won't let me touch him, but waits on porch till I go to store for cat food. Yes. Just feed me. They all have their own sensibilities and attitudes, right? Love them all. Thank you. I have to think more positively. Yeah. It's easier for us to go into, a negative mode in a lot of times. It is. It's so easy. I think we're kind of built that way, like humans, Yeah, it's modern times, but our brains are still thinking like it's Neanderthal times, and we have to be careful of all the crazy stuff out there that's going to kill us. So, when our boss is yelling at us or something like that, that's the saber-toothed tiger. And we just want to run away. And so because of that, it's all about protection. So, we get the fight or flight, or the negativity and all that comes in right away to for a protection kind of thing. I think I heard that or read that somewhere where, our brains haven't caught up. Like we watch a movie and it's really scary, and our brains are thinking, oh crap, there's something kind of coming at us. So it releases all these chemicals, just like if we were running from a saber-toothed tiger. And so, negativity, it's easy for us. It's easier for us to pick out what we don't like rather than what we do like all the time. And that could be a good thing. Too much of anything could be a problem, could be good. I tend to try and be as positive as I can, or at least think about these things a bit more, but not so overly positive where it doesn't get into critical thinking, because there is a tendency for a lot of artists to say, you know what, I don't want to hear anything bad about my work. I just want to have fun with it. I don't care. I don't want to be critical about it. I don't care if I get any better, or maybe they do, but they just don't want to hear the critique. And it's hard for some artists to hear that. I want to scrape this off. It's too dark, and I keep, even when I'm mixing in paint, that dark area stays. So I'm trying to lighten it up, but I'm picking up too much of what's wet. So just scrape off some of that dark paint that's there. That way I can quickly and easily get back to the lightness of it. We always have to think about when we're painting, especially when we're painting wet into wet, what of the paint that's already down is going to mix with what we're about to put down. So for example, you're painting on a very light color that you want to darken. Well, the mixture that you make, that you put in your brush, that's going to go over that light color needs to be a little bit darker, because you're planning for a little bit of that light color to mix through. It's why I think a lot of artists feel it's easier to paint with water-based medium, because there's that extra bit of complexity that we don't have to worry about. We don't have to worry about mixing with what's already down. I mean, we have to deal with the drawing and the edges and the value and the color and everything else that goes within that. If we can remove one variable, of course it's easier. Definitely. And the more you do it, the more a lot of those variables kind of go into the background of your brain, and it's a little bit easier. And then you can add in wet on wet, and you're like, okay, I can deal with this extra variable now. I'm just having, this is a day where I'm meditating on these little tiny moments. Just meditating on these little tiny moments within this painting. And it feels good. It is not good for this exciting thing on a stream, but it's good for me right now. Tomorrow I could be completely different. I could come in here with a big 2-inch brush and decide to just blow the whole thing up. We'll see. I look at my first painting. It was a Willie Nelson portrait. Oh, cool. I think, wow, so happy no one will see this crap. It's on my Insta. Yep. Millions have seen it. And millions have gone, wow, that's a really good painting of Willie Nelson. And then a whole bunch of other people will go, whoa, that's a terrible painting of Willie Nelson. And you know what? They're all right. Good or bad is meaningless anymore. Right. You look at it and you say, oh, I can do better now. That's fantastic. Yeah, you're right. Unfortunately, he only lived 10 short years. Oh, poor kitty. What size? This is 8 by 12. So a little bit bigger than I normally work. Like this is 6x9, my previous painting. Same ratio, just a little bit larger because I have so many hands in here. I didn't want this fist to just be 1 inch, so it's a little bit larger. But I work small. I enjoy working small. I mean, if I worked larger, geez, these paintings would take forever. I've painted big before, and I just enjoy the iteration. And really, it's because the reason why I work small for the most part is because I have an idea, and then that idea lasts for maximum 7 to 10 days before I'm like, okay, I'm ready to move on to the next idea, the next painting. And I've done those long-term paintings before where months and months go by, and it's just so arduous to keep that interest as they're going through it. So arduous. I like the small paintings. They're easier to sell. They're cheaper, less expensive. I don't like selling my paintings for super expensive. I could work on this for 2 months and still I'd sell it for like $65 or $125 or something like that. I like that the paintings are approachable by anybody. You don't have to be super rich to own artwork, It's all about the connection. We talked about that yesterday on yesterday's stream. Sharing your work, how important sharing your work is. And I want to be specific on that. When I was talking yesterday, I don't know because Chris was on here and we were talking a little bit, and they did not like being a salesperson. I could totally understand. And I wanted to be just very clear that I'm talking about sharing work and not selling work, because it's two different things. You can share and sell, or you can just share. But I think sharing is important, and selling doesn't have to come across with that. Lovely process, Chris. Thank you, Michael. I've been working small, carved a block print from one I like, made it bigger, lost the painting right in front of me because it was different in black and white. Oh yeah, like the different medium would just kind of change everything about it. That would be pretty interesting to see, like the difference between I guess you mean like a block print. Yeah, block print. I used to do wood block prints. Oh man, I love doing wood block prints because you can do them at home. You don't have to have like a specific press. Just have a brayer and do a bunch of, prints on paper. A lot of fun. And I do some woodworking as it is, so. This little moment here, focusing on this little tiny moment. Like nothing else on the planet matters except for this little tiny thing. It's interesting how I feel like I'm getting detailed because I'm working small, but at the same time, it's not like I'm working detailed as in I'm trying to repeat exactly what I'm seeing, but expressing differences in simple ways, but in also a very small way too. And thinking about that and how interesting that is. I can't even imagine trying to be photorealistic with these fingers right now. I couldn't do it. I mean, that's beyond me. And artists that can do that, I mean, amazing how they can get so detailed. I do prefer like a simplistic approach to allow for the viewer to have interpretation. I do prefer that approach. But I still look up to people that can get so detailed. I'm like, dude, I don't understand. I wonder if it's just time or if it's more than that. It has to be more than that. Oh, I was painting some little paintings for fun and not thinking too much. And man, some people destroyed them with criticism. but I was laughing inside the whole time because I know it wasn't good. Yeah, I'm trying to think of, I'm always trying to help. So I'm always trying to think of like some helpful response to that. I think criticism is good. I also think that every painting has something good within it as well. Like there's always something good and always something bad. And like we were talking about before, it's easier for us to see the bad a lot of times more than the good. And I think when people are being very critical to artwork, hopefully they have that balance of like, yeah, that, this is really awesome. I love this moment, but I think here you can improve in this way. Because I don't think it's always bad. I think there's always something good we can pull out from it. Especially now when we see so many contemporary works out there that are dealing with so much more than just accuracy with looking exactly like the photo or the object we're painting from, where painting can be so much more than that. It's like, no, I'm not going for accuracy. I'm going for feeling. I'm going for a deeper understanding of color, and so when we have an environment that allows for all of that, I could look at artwork all day long and go, man, look at all these wonderful things that you've done here that are just beautiful. I mean, just sensibility of color or value or whatever. Yeah, your drawing is way off on this area or whatever, but I don't really care. There's so many wonderful artists at Urban Sketchers that I attend here in Pueblo that are not doing things that are super detailed or super accurate, but man, they have some beautiful styles. It's gorgeous. I think what it comes down to within yourself, and I talk about this a lot, when we define what we want to accomplish within our artwork, and at the beginning or somewhere during the artwork, like, oh, I want to accomplish this. And then that's how we can personally kind of rate, did we hit the mark or are we far away from it? And figure out where we're at on that. And I think that is, as long as we define that, as long as we want to define that, because honestly, the artwork could be like, no, I'm not thinking about it. I just want to move through the process. I just want to paint and I don't care about the outcome. That is a perfectly valid way of painting. I know abstract artists that are like, no, I turn off my brain intentionally and I try and find that child in me. And I don't care about the outcome. And it's great. It's fantastic. I'd finish 2 big canvases if I mix up the paint and set the palette. It's a fun way of painting that way. I haven't done that in forever. Like if you're doing like a very expressive landscape or something like that, and you're like, oh, I would just, all about mark making and expressiveness. Yeah. I've seen artists that, my friend Michael Orwick does these huge landscapes. He's like, yeah, I finished a couple paintings, this week. How big are they, Mike? 30 by 40? And I'm like, oh my God. He's like, they only took a few hours each, and they're beautiful, just like very expressive. And he'll do that. He'll mix up a whole huge thing of paint, get out these big 3-inch chip brushes, and just go at it. Yeah, and I'm meditating on these fingers, these 2 fingers, maybe 3, I'll get through today, and that's it for me. And they don't look like fingers right now, and that's fine. I feel like what I can do here as I'm moving through, I'm channeling my inner Olga. Hopefully there's an Olga in there somewhere fighting to get out. But I'm thinking that right now they're not looking like fingers, and I'm hoping that like within a couple things I can do to them brings that out. Like those 3 brush strokes made the whole hand work like Olga does. Just fantastic. This looks really interesting though. I'm interested in all that paint. It's fun. That's my problem. I lose interest in what I'm working on really fast. Yeah, it's hard. Work with that, Say, okay, I only have enough interest for 2 days of working. And for me, that's like 4 hours, right? And then you say, okay, that's my constraints, right? That my brain is on right now. Let's work with that. Let's not try and push away from that. Let's work with it. Let me do some smaller paintings that only take that amount of time, and I can move from one to the next and one to the next. Work with your sensibilities. Don't work against them. That's who you are as a person. Love who you are as a person. Work with that, and you'll probably find, hopefully, you'll find something that's a bit more you, a bit more authentic. And we're all trying to find that. We're all trying to find that every day. Like, who the heck am I today? What am I trying to do? Yesterday, I was a different person working on this painting. Today, I'm meditating on a couple fingers. Just having fun with little bits of paint. I painted a donut painting for a donut shop, and they gave me 2 coupons for free donuts. Oh, that's fantastic. I think that's a wonderful trade. Give me some donuts for a painting. That's absolutely fantastic. Let's do that. That's what we need. I need to stop being an artist for, patrons. I need to be an artist for the grocery store. You don't have to pay me. Just hook me up with some groceries. There we go. That's a whole possibility that I never thought of. But not fast food. I don't want to eat fast food. It had to be a grocery store, maybe a nicer grocery store, a local mom and pop grocery store. Hey, can I do paintings for your shop? Just trade groceries. Be really good. The barter system. I haven't paid for groceries in 20 years. That'd be wonderful. Yeah, 2 years involvement into one painting. My goodness. You remind me of, oh geez, what's the artist's name? I have been gifting my little paintings. Okay, yeah, I missed that one. I've been gifting my little paintings. Hard to gift 2 years involvement with a big one. Yeah, okay. Now I get it. True. Nice donut tip. Lesson learned. If you want free donuts, just make a painting that takes 2 months. Chris, just imagine a little Olga standing on your shoulder. There you go. It'd be Olga on one side and then, someone else on the other side. Paintings for groceries. Yeah, when you put a lot of time and effort into a painting, and I love getting rid of my paintings, giving paintings away and things like that. As long as someone has an honest connection with it, a visceral connection with my painting, heck yeah, take it, please. Give it a wonderful home. Fantastic. But But the bigger paintings I have, there's some paintings that did take a very long time. Actually, I did gift. There's a painting called Patrick that you can look at on my website. And it was hard. It was hard. It was a time in my life where I only had the energy to work for half an hour a day for like a year and a half. And so every day I would, work on that painting for half an hour, do a little bit on it, and then move through the painting slowly and slowly and slowly, and finally finished it. It was a portrait of a really good friend of mine. And I had it for years because, I painted it through COVID and all that. And finally got to meet up with him again. And I brought the painting. I gave it to him. And he's like, I can't take it. You can't just give me this amazing painting. I'm like, yes, I can. Take it. So he said, I tell you what, let me give you a painting. And I was like, oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'll do that trade all day long. Give me your painting, especially with a good friend of mine. And I spent forever on that painting. But it was, the moment of him getting that painting and just feeling that feeling within it, it felt really good. It felt really good. It was a close thing. That would be harder for a stranger, if a stranger came off the street and they're like, oh, I like that painting. I'd be like, okay, $10,000. Just a price on it that will turn people away. Because I do put up some paintings in galleries and I put a very high price on them because I don't want people to buy them. And it's more kind of like, okay, if someone really wants to spend that amount of money on that painting, if they're like so connected with it that amount of money doesn't deter them, okay, fine, that works. I can let it go for that. These are like portraits of me and my cat and super meaningful things. I don't have a lot of paintings that are like that meaningful, as far as emotionally meaningful. I know there's a lot of artists that get so invested with, emotionally in their artwork, which is fantastic, that it's very difficult for them to give it away. And I've experienced that with some paintings. And I feel it. And I think it's good. I think it's good to have connection with it. But I'm like you guys, whoever said this, I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up on names, but after the painting's done, I'm connected with it. And then several days later, usually I'm like, okay, it's time for that one to go. Who wants it? Later, I'm off and about. Okay, bye, Izza. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the commentary. However long you guys can stay for a couple minutes, just to hear me ramble, get my head in the way. It's fine. We're 2 hours in, though. Getting close to my point where the energy level dies, and the focus goes away. Here's another thing I'm talking, let me go back to the comment because I like knowing who said the comments. Yeah, Dennis, that's my problem. I lose interest in what I'm working on. We talked about, working with that. Okay. And I think that's important. Also knowing where your limit is for how long you can work per day before your brain turns into mush, and don't force it. Well, Nick Alm works for 8 hours or 16 hours a day every single day. I don't care about Nick Alm. I mean, his paintings are absolutely amazing, but I can't do that. Like, I need that break, right? And that does change over time. It reminds me of, like, I do a life drawing here every week in Pueblo. So I run life drawing here. And if you're not used to it, you don't have the stamina to show up and draw from the model for 3 hours straight. And a lot of people will leave after an hour or 2 hours. And they're like, my brain is done. I'm fried. It's a different energy. And I think everyone that's still on here understands that. Like we could work physically for a lot longer, doing mindless stuff. And I could spend 8 hours doing physical work, at wherever place I worked. I remember doing retail, but with painting, no, hour and a half, 2 hours max. I could probably go longer today because I'm a little bit more calm and kind of meditating through this. But, understanding where we're at within that. Heck, within each individual day, not just generally. There are days when I know, okay, it's my minimum day, half an hour. That's it. That's all I got before I need to go back to bed or something. This is coming together. I can feel it. I cannot explain to you the moment when that happens or what that feeling is exactly, but it's coming together. It's so very slow and so very minute right now. This little tiny little bits that I'm putting together. But I just had this feeling of it, like it's coming together. It's feeling good. Like Michael Bublé says, it's feeling good. My only policy is if I can hide from my wife, I'm painting. You're hilarious. Another person online. How many years of marriage is that where you have to hide from your wife? Because we're at 25 right now. Maybe you're a bit further on. I don't know. For me, it's like if I could hide from the outdoors, I'm painting. There was one point in my life where, I had to force myself. Like I had to put on my to-do list every day, go outside, go do something out of this house. Because, there were times when, because Patty would be the one getting groceries and, getting what we need and stuff. And they would ask me, when's the last time you left the house? And I would have to sit there, blank stare and go, I don't know. I think I've been here for 6 weeks. Just got to get out. I would be a hermit in a heartbeat. It's so easy for me to kind of fall into that. It's a little bit harder now because I'm in an area where the art scene, everyone here is so nice and awesome. It's a great artist community. That's the words I was looking for. And I love getting out, talking to artists here, especially with First Fridays and stuff like that. The art show that I just did, the pop-up art show, was so wonderful. It was a lot of fun. Late at night, but a lot of fun. Yeah, I feel like I'm really channeling my inner Olga on these hands right now. I'm so glad I looked at that. It gave me that perspective I needed to kind of let go a little bit more. But let go in a different way. It's like, we're such visual individuals, and then we move through this life. 20 years. Oh, fantastic. Great job. Congratulations. We're so visual that a lot of times we just need to see, I think, how it's done by others to see that it can be done in a different way. Like, oh my gosh, you can actually do that. I remember watching a lot of Nicholas Uribe's videos and going, whoa, you can do that? Like the possibility opened up in my head. Seems so simple afterwards. But before it was like, no, that was not possible. So looking at Olga was more like that. Like, okay, we can do it that way. And that way is so specific. Like that's all I can explain on it. That way, that miasma of nothing developed slowly, very slowly. With just eventually 1 or 2 strokes coming in and making the whole of this kind of foggy paint thing work. Look at that, scraping that paint off there. That's cool. Yep. LOL, friends, family will ask suspiciously if I'm painting every day, and I'm like, not that much, just when I can. 20 years of the old ball and chain. No comment on that. I'm not gonna. I can't say that. I can't say that with my partner close. Hey, there's Chris. Hey, Chris. Sorry I'm late. Why the lines? Oh, good question. Glad you asked. I'll talk about that in a second. And there is no lateness here. You just show up whenever you want, Chris, and it's cool. And you ask questions, and yeah, and I'll try and make it interesting. But welcome. I'm glad you're here. However you can be here. So what I wanted to do, because I was not happy with the session yesterday on this painting, and I felt like all the paint that was on there before that I had worked on yesterday, it felt like an artist that really didn't understand the structure of this hand that was here, and most of the painting, really, like the structure wasn't there. And that was intentional, because I was moving through the painting as expressively as I could, right? But today I was like, I need to bring it back, and I need to get back into the drawing of it and try and get a little bit more accuracy in the placement, the general placement of where the major like fist is, and hand and arm. And so I did this whole process, which I do several times. I've showed it multiple times on the stream so far, where I take a photo of the painting and I bring it into Photoshop, I straighten it out, and I overlay it on top of the reference that I'm working with. And I get this objective approach to see where the drawing is accurate and where the drawing is inaccurate. And then I draw some lines on the digital image, and then I make corrections through that on my painting, and just general corrections for a lot of these lines. They're not like super exact, like contours going around every single finger or whatever, but just getting the general hand back where it needs to go. And I wanted to move through that structural, like that objective look of this hand, and try to understand the form, the turning of each finger a bit more. And I felt that would get this painting back on track, where I could understand the form a bit more and get deeper into it that way. And so it's been a very slow painting today, really meditating through all of these small forms in just this hand. We even looked at Olga Bolsnanska and her hands that she's painted. Oh, so good. And being influenced by her work, allowing her to kind of give us, like, guide us in a different way of simplifying that is so foreign to me, and just understanding that possibility. So that's the reason for the lines. And I can definitely feel my brain losing that meditative quality. Not seeing the specifics. Sorry, Chris, you came in here a little bit later. I'm sorry that I may be ending the stream soon. We'll see. We'll see. But I always keep the videos up on my channel so that you can rewatch them at 2x speed. I have a 6-year-old who runs in here, and I put him to draw. Oh, that's good. Nice. See the connection of these two fingers here. I squint down and it just blends in. So let's do that. Let's just remove, when the values get really close together, just lose those edges. Just let it happen. That's what Olga would do. What would Olga do, right? And I love that there's like so many different ways of coming at like the simplification of these forms, or every form. I mean, I could have showed you John Singer Sargent or Sorolla, or Frans Hals is another, like back in the day, master artist, simplified in a much different way than everybody. Boldini, another one, right? Love it. Love all those different ways of coming at it. Simplification. Just, okay, I'm going to simplify in this way. This is the way that I, my sensibilities within it. And then moving through those and then saying, okay, I don't want to go full Olga because that doesn't feel right to me. I want to do like a combination of Sorolla, Olga, and Nick Alm all in one painting. And that feels like it's closer to what I like right now and who I am. Like finding our way through it, right? Been avoiding that thumb, I think. Let's put one orange piece down. Because I did that previously for the end of this thumb, and I think I liked it. No, too yellowish. Not sure about that. Not sure. Okay. Yeah, if I could put my cat to drawing, that would be good. That'd be fun. Hey, Chris, sorry my joking might have thrown a wrench in the stream. Not at all. Are you kidding me? Not at all. Don't apologize. Everything throws a wrench into my stream. I mean, like everybody knows when they show up, it's going to be Tangent City. I'm going to go off in some kind of tangent, like some random thing is going to pop into my head. I'm going to talk about it. I'm not going to sit there and go, no, we have to stay on track. I'm just going to talk about it. I mean, as far as, see, that worked. That worked so simple, but that worked really well. I'm still going to go through, and every now and then I'll come back to my painting. I'll come back and I'll see, because I have to talk about it for myself. I have to think about it, and I usually think with my mouth. So there we go. But I'll come back to it every now and then. And I think I liked that stroke because it was light. It had the value of like the end of that thumb, like the thumb has this like kind of highlight on it, but it's also going across the form. I know about myself that I like going across the form to show the three-dimensionality of every form, especially these fingers. I always prefer that. I even like doing it in very linear ways, like these little linear strokes going across the form and describing it that way. I'll even get in here with like the back of my brush, and I'll describe it in these little, like the cross contours of this thumb, and I'll leave some of that. Like the last painting, I loved leaving that. But these kind of simple things where we think, it's just simple. Yeah, I like doing that. It's not really saying very much. It's not very important. Yes, it is. It's super important. It's a little understanding of what you like to do as an artist. And if you focus on that, if you take that a bit further and you say, oh, well, now's the moment where this is going to work perfectly, like my sensibilities, you'll start making paintings where at the end of it, you go, that's me. It's not a painting of me, It's a painting of, some figures or a tree or something like that, but it's also me. And that's one of the best feelings, I have to say. It's one of the best feelings. I need to delineate that back to separate out, because we're getting light on these knuckles and you can only see that. If it's just on white paper, you won't be able to see that, but it's relative light. So I need to put the darkness behind them to see how bright the light on those knuckles actually are. I won't be able to see it otherwise. It's all relativity. Thank you, Einstein. Einstein, the artist, right? Never painted in his life, I'm sure. Or maybe he did. That would be kind of cool. See Einstein's paintings on relativity. I really feel that this is looking better, but still not quite there. There's a few moments that are really good, but it still is not feeling cohesive in a lot of ways. What I'm going to do before the end of the session is I'm going to mass in that hilt of that knife to understand the separation of that knife between, the back and the hand itself. I think this will help me understand what is working and what's not working here. I wish it was easier. Even, after decades of painting, it's still, you say, oh man, there's just something not working. It's just not working here. And then you got to, really work through that. That might be like the skill that separates good and great painters. No, not working. Simply done, Chris. Simply done. It's not really the right value there. It's okay. Just want a simple separation between the two. It's so funny how there's like so many little moments within this hand, these fingers, where I think there's small ones that look really good, and then other ones it just like falls off the rails. Like, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I can't express fully like why one works and why one does not. Not yet. It's part of the reason for these streams, figuring that out. Will be less funny and put on my more serious pants on next time. Nah, don't bother. It's Pajama Sunday, yes. It's a great paint increase. At least $1,000 and a donut coupon for sure. Yes. There you go. Like, how many donut coupons is this painting worth? And I guess it depends on what donuts too, If it's just basic glazed Dunkin' donuts, not so much, It's like, okay, no, I want better donuts, But if you're in like Portland and you go to like Voodoo Donuts, those are some good donuts, some crafted donuts. Somebody chefed the crap out of those donuts. That's some good stuff. But don't step up in here with some basic glazed donuts trying to pay for my painting. Oh my God, we are off the rails. Yeah, you're right, another person. You totally are off the rails. No kidding. So what I'm doing right now, serious pants, is I did some work on these fingers, okay? I'm only going to know how well that work is done, or if it's done, or if it needs to change, or if it needs to go into a different direction. I will only know that if things around it are somewhat resolved. Doesn't have to be completely resolved, but just somewhat resolved. You know, when I say like value and color and texture and edges and everything is relative based on everything else that's in your painting and around it, it's the same with resolving detail or just resolving your painting in general. It's all dependent on what's around it. So I could say those fingers look fantastic and I love them. But then as soon as I put like the background, you know, the back on there, that will add in that contrast to bring things in a little bit further to what I actually see in the painting, they may be a little bit incongruent. A really bad note within the painting. It is amazing how something way up in the corner of a painting can affect something in your focal point. Something so far away in distance, yet you're like, wow, it would be a great painting, but that corner of it just, you know, they fell asleep there. It just doesn't work. And look how I can still scrape back. Some of this paint has been on here for 2 days, but I can still scrape all the way back to the white. That's pretty nice. Look at that. Like I can just erase all of that work I did on that knife. You know, keep it within the redrawing that I did. You know, keep the drawing that I got, that I did today. Keep that where it's at, but just remove all the paint down there because I want to change a lot of what's down there. That's a practical thing to talk about. I scrape a lot in some instances to get a look that I want, the transparency I want. And then sometimes I know that the paint that's down is going to affect what I'm going to try and put over it too much. So I scrape it off so that what I put on top or when I go back into it, it's going to be exactly what I mix up. And then other times it's like, no, I want the effect of the paint that's already down. And that's fine. So don't worry about scraping, just mix them together. Totally cool. Not the right color, but the right value. Or somewhat, no, that's still not the right value. It needs to be lighter. There. This hilt of the knife is just super shiny. You know what I'm going to do? I need a reference of white, and I need more white. We started a painting, which painting was it? I can't remember which painting was it. A few paintings ago, I started with detail, and I think that was the beginning of the stream. Like the stream was titled something like that. And one of the very first things you start with when you're starting with detail, because you don't know how, you know, what you put down, how it's going to compare to everything else in the painting. So you plan for it. So how I started that painting was putting down my lightest light, my darkest dark, and then everything after that compared against it. And when I say reference of white, I want to put down just straight white, which is dangerous. It's dangerous to put straight white down because you're setting a boundary that you can't cross anymore. You can't get whiter than that. Maybe, unless you can scrape back to the paper, the white of the paper. Sometimes that looks whiter. But I want to see this reference here of what white looks like just straight white looks like compared to everything else, even the scraped paper. Just a comparative value. That will kind of give me an understanding of the light areas of these fingers if they need to come up, which I think No, I don't think they need to. This is dangerous because we only have so much room. Like I'm putting this white here. No, you can't see that. Can you see that? Yeah, it's right down there. I can put it here. White on white paper, okay? It's just you can barely see the difference, okay? It's a small difference. There's a little bit of glow that happens like right here with a little bit of yellow that's there, but the white is pretty close. But if we have, I mean, we only have this value range, okay? This is what we can do. This is our limit. I forget that I'm zoomed out all the time. This is our limit, okay? For value ranges. That's all we got. And if we start the painting with the whitest white we got and the darkest dark we have, we do that everywhere on the painting, we've left no room for those extra accents that we may need in certain places. You've already let that cat out of the bag, which is, I don't know, it's a terrible analogy, I think. Terrible idiom in that circumstance. But you've already expressed the full range of value throughout the entire painting, which could be good in some scenarios, but it's better to not go all the way to white, to kind of hold that back for later. Like hold your cards on that so that you have this extra punch at the end. If I need to go white, super, super bright white, I still have that possibility. So I think it's always better to compress value ranges throughout your painting, starting at the very beginning. Very small. It could be a very small compression where you just say, every time I dip into my white paint, my titanium white, to make sure that I mix it with something that brings the value down just a little bit. And every time I dip into my ivory black, that I mix it with something to lighten it up just a little bit. That way, by the end of the painting, maybe even after it's dry, I can get a palette knife out and I can scrape on just white right out of the tube, and it just glows like nothing else on the painting. It just has an opacity and a beauty that the entire painting was propping up. Like you put on all this foundation just for that one stroke. And we always have to remember white and black are the most neutral colors you can get. It's no different than gray. White is gray, basically. I'm going to scrape that. I want this to be the white of the paper. White does have a color to it. Titanium white is closer to blue. You could get like a ceramic white, which is a little bit warmer. And then there's other whites that I don't know about that are a bit warmer as well. But always see white and black as a color. It has hue, it has value, and it has saturation too. I love watching Helen Van Wyck reruns and Tom Keating when he paints a Turner. Super old reruns, fun to listen to them. I don't know these people. I'll have to check them out. Tom Keating, Helen Van Wyck. Is it like John Wick for painting? Sorry, I apologize. You know, that would be an interesting stream. I'm going to be John Wick as a painter. We're going to fight this painting. And I'm going to paint with a gun. Only in America, I think. John Wick. I've learned from your stream, Chris. I'm one step closer to getting paid with green money. One day I'm going to upgrade from getting paid with donuts into the green money. Not the very squishy cream field money. Yeah, that almost sounded wrong. Very wrong. Okay. I'm pretty good with this session. We're in a better direction today. I'm turning this painting around. And here I go with that. Like, I always do this. I'm about to stop the stream and then I see something as I look at the digital thing and I'm like, no, I need to bring that value down a little bit. Let's just like squish it out. Scrape some of this off. I want to leave. I don't want to get this dark just yet. I want to leave some of that for later. I want to have more room to play. Okay. Now I'm good. Good. Feels good today. Got better. Yeah. She has a sense of humor too. Okay. I'm going to copy these two names out and then put them somewhere so I can look for these artists. I wonder if I'll see them and I'll go, oh, these people. Like if I know them in the depths of my terrible memory. Nope, I do not know Helen Van Wyck. And I'm looking for Tom Keating. Oh, here we go. The Artie Bartfast, maybe that's it. Not sure. Anyway, I'll check them out. Thank you. I always like looking at new and different artists all the time. Especially with other artists that have a sense of humor. Okay. Now, the one thing I'm seeing with this painting as I'm looking at it on the digital version is you can see here, I mean, this could be the camera doing this, but there's a compression in values that are happening. It's so close. Like I can't tell on these two fingers. Let me use my brush rather than my big meaty finger in this little small painting. So this finger here and this finger here has light on it. It has a bright light on it. I cannot tell that. That separation in value isn't great enough that it needs to be. It needs to be greater. It needs to be a larger separation in value there. This finger is definitely lighter on the top. And right here as well. I'm kind of scraping off with the back of a brush. And then here also. Can kind of feel, can feel it a little bit better there. This digital image is not near as good as what I'm seeing, honestly. There's a much greater value difference on the painting than in the digital image. I do like those strokes I put down. You know, it's a little incongruent with everything that's on there at the moment, but I'm gonna play with it. I think, you know, it's a little bit part of going beyond comfort zone and normalcy into something that might work or might be terrible. And then we get into this highlight on this thumb here. We really need to get back to white on that. And woof, almost scraped that much too far. I need to support my hand next time I do that, or else it's going to scrape back too much. Yeah, same here. Could lighten all that up there. On the top of this finger as well, like those, the value differences aren't there. Like here's the difference between me and Olga that I enjoy, you know, finding those little differences, which is I like these little tick marks, this little kind of drawing inspiration or moments that I can go in with the back of the brush and scrape that off. Yes, it's incongruent. Yes, it's a little bit different. Yeah, it's kind of weird. But I like it. I do like it. It looks kind of interesting. Could do a bunch more of it everywhere. Yeah. Especially this knuckle here. Just catches a little bit of light. Look at that moment. That's pretty. Okay, not too much of that. Yeah, that's going to remind me for tomorrow because it'll still be wet tomorrow, so I can soften out a lot of that if I want. But really kind of looking at this after, after I've worked on it for a couple hours, and just defining not only what I like and where I dislike about it. I think I made really good progress on it today, but also where I want to go tomorrow. So I'll still be working on this hand tomorrow. I think I need to spread into these areas, really, around the hand so I can feel where it's going. A lot of these values, a lot of these edges, a lot of the differences within it. And I could even just quickly, there's a delineation of these two fingers here that if I get the right color, right value specifically, it can very purplish, dark red, and just the right touches in the right place, if I can do it, to simply separate these fingers out and to find those little moments like Olga Bolznanska was able to do, where it's like, oh, it's nothing but haze, paint haze, and then 2 strokes turn it into a hand. Possibly, maybe. Possibly, maybe. Sorry, like a weird stream today, guys. Like a lot of moments where I'm being pretty quiet, not talking a lot about what I'm doing. Focusing. So boring. So boring. Okay. I can stop now. Will Probably Not Fast. It was an old TV show. There's some on YouTube. I just saw some of Tom Keating and Helen Van Wyck on YouTube, so I'll check them out. One funny Tom Keating episode, he is paid 1 free pint of beer from a tavern to clean an old painting. Oh, that's awesome. 1 free pint of beer each month for the rest of his life is what he said. Oh, that's cool. I could do that. Okay. Yeah, a pretty good session today. I've taken this painting further. I mean, not the entire painting, just, oh my gosh, there's still a bunch left on this. I'm going to zoom way out so you can see the whole painting. Yeah, there's a lot to do on this painting. As you know, right now I'm looking at Focus Danielson. Thank you. Wax on, wax off, right? Show me Sand Floor. A lot to do on this painting, a lot to get through, but I think it was a good session today. And it's going to be interesting to see how I can keep the interest within this painting as I move through it. It's going to be a longer painting. I knew that because it's bigger than what I normally work with. Not only keep my interest up with it, but also keep the interest of the stream going too, because that's important. That is important to me. Figuring that out is important to me. Yeah, keeping it interesting for you guys and helping you out is important. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate everyone that showed up, all the questions, all the comments, all the sidetracks. Totally cool and fun. My website is chrisbevan.com right there. Check it out. like, subscribe here, newsletter on my website, purchase my paintings there. Yeah. And that's it. No more sales pitch. I'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday. Yeah, that should be tomorrow. Wednesday is going to be an issue because Life Drawing starts back up on Wednesdays. So anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about that. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Bye-bye.